Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Lady Gang. It's me, Jack, with my brand new and improved husband.
Hello.
Hi, Jared.
Hello, Jacqueline.
I thought that we would do another recap today because we've done recaps through like our big points in our relationship, our engagement, our courthouse and bachelorette, bachelor party. And then now, obviously, we need to talk about the wedding.
We just got to drag people through all of it.
All of it.
All of it.
I mean, like I said in the last episode, I also like doing this because we can show it to our kids one day about like what we were feeling and what we were thinking and like all of the memories before they fade into oblivion.
Right.
It's kind of like an audio journal, I guess.
I like that.
Yeah.
Something, and we can keep it. It's nice to go back and listen at some point, I'm sure.
I think so.
Yeah.
How do you feel being married?
I feel so, I feel like a weight has been lifted.
Yeah.
You know, because there was so much planning and there was so much like, you know, obviously it was mostly you, but
Yeah.
it just took up, it was like a full-time job for
Yeah.
a while, you know, figuring
yeah.
it, especially with the destination and all that stuff. So, a lot of nerves going into it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I feel like it just like ramped as we got closer, it just like ramped super fast.
Yeah.
So now that it's done, like I just feel like a lot lighter.
It is funny being home, like because especially in the past couple of months, it has ramped because I wasn't like stressed or nervous for the longest time, even up to like a month. And then the month hit right before. And then it was like go time. And me being me, like I obsessed over everything and like had to do everything perfectly. And everything took so much time. So I was overwhelmed like to the max.
Yeah.
But it's weird being home and having like no task to do. Like obviously we're doing our work, our normal stuff, but like I was used to, like you said, having basically 2 full-time jobs because the wedding was like my moonlighting.
Right. Well, it was so weird to get home and then be like, the first thing that I said was, now what?
Yeah.
You know, because it's like, I think the way that we described it was like you get picked up so quickly. It's like a roller coaster. It's like you go sky high and then as soon as it's over, you just like crash.
Yeah.
And I didn't really feel the weight of that until we got back home. Like when we walked back into our place and like sat down, I was like, my body just like gave out.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to stay on the couch for like 2 days.
I know. It's funny. I had so much adrenaline the entire time that we were there. And the day that we got home, I was like, I feel great. And then it's taken me so long to like get back into, my voice probably sounds right now, but do we want to start from the beginning?
We want to do what you want to do.
I mean, I think we should just kind of go through the whole experience.
Yeah.
So we went to Paris like a week before the wedding because I wanted to regulate my digestive system. I wanted to get rid of the jet lag. I wanted to feel my best.
We wanted a nice runway.
Yeah. So we weren't feeling shitty on our wedding. And we flew on points. We flew in fancy first class seats.
Ooh, those lay flats.
It was your first time flying. It was both of our first time flying internationally.
It was my first like international
first
like
class.
big seat moment. And
Yeah.
It was awesome. We got to have dinner facing each other. That was nice.
Yeah, it was really cute.
I didn't know that was a thing up there.
Yeah, they had like a little seat. We had a nice.
I might be showing my airline status by saying that, but I didn't know that in business class you could sit and face each other and there's a table that you can put between. So there's like a footrest and then there's the seat. So you sat on the footrest and then the table is like between you.
I don't think they all have it, but they had it for that. It was really special. We shared a moment. I cried.
Had a little date night.
I've cried so many times.
You sure have.
One of the many times.
Just keep doing it.
That was happy tears because we were finally like starting everything and I just felt the weight of all of the planning. And I remember talking about just how like special of an experience it was to like bond with my parents through the whole process.
Yeah.
And it was really cute. So we flew to Paris. Flying first class does not help with your jet lag.
No.
We were still so when we got there.
Yeah, well, and then we kind of like had a day to ourselves before everybody started kind of trickling into Paris, and then it was just like
craziness.
The theme of the whole trip was like once things get set in motion, there's no stopping them, right? So like as soon as people started showing up, I was like, oh shit, here we go. And then it was just like every day we were just like doing the most.
Well, and the problem was I thought that we pretty much had everything. Like the good part about doing something like internationally destination, I was like, well, all the work will be done. When we get there, it's just time to hang. But the work was not done.
No.
I had very lofty goals. And this is something that I actually would recommend anybody that's getting married. I think it was the best part about our wedding, especially for our guests. But we wrote letters to every single one of our guests. They were very heartfelt letters. We sat down and thought about every single person that was there. Why are they going to be there? Why are they special in our lives? Like, what do we admire most about them? And we wrote them each letters that they opened when they sat at the dinner table.
Yeah. So the envelope became like the name card for people on the table.
Yeah. And though I think it was the best thing that we had done at the wedding, it also was the most time-consuming thing.
Yeah, we wrote 60 full-page letters to people.
Yeah, and these aren't just like, I've seen people do it on TikTok where they're just like, oh, Brian, hope to try the clam chowder when I get to Boston or something. Like, no, we were literally sitting and like emotionally analyzing every single person that was there and why they were important to us.
Yeah.
And everything, like so many of the letters made us cry. They made everybody cry when they were reading them.
Yeah.
But anyways, we were writing those up to the morning of the wedding. And that was something that stressed me out so much because there was still stuff to do.
I'd say that was the most time consuming part of the whole planning of it. It was like, because you have to actually, it's a total brain dump. You have to like sit and be like, okay, so what is it about this person that I feel like is worth writing down on this little like card? You can only say so much for each person. But I think that was kind of the fun part, was like for every single person that came to the wedding, there was a reason why they belonged there with us, you know? So like, I don't know. It wasn't hard to do. Like it actually, once we got into it, it came pretty easy. It just was so time consuming.
Very time consuming. But I'm glad that we did it. It's like everybody traveled so far and spent so much money to be there for us, where it was like, we wanted everybody to feel seen and to feel like they were appreciated. And that's the best way for us to do it. So anyways, but it took up all of our time. So we were doing that. We were literally like waking up early and doing it in the mornings and then coming home early and doing it at night. And then literally on the wedding morning, I was like writing all the envelopes, and it was a whole thing. But that was a big aspect that stressed me out while we were in Paris. But our friends were coming anyways. Like there's probably 15 of us that came to Paris before. And it was so fun.
It was so fun. I mean, having everybody in town before is just such a great way to kind of kick it off into the trip. And like our whole goal from the start was to have this thing be like a, kind of like a big, what would we do if we went on vacation, and then how would that look if like all of our friends came too, which we've done a couple times like in a smaller group.
But this is everybody.
No, so it was cool to kind of like kick it off in Paris and then have, like moments where we went to Pink Mama that one night, which was amazing. We had like 20 people at the table.
Yeah, Pink Mama, big recommendation in Paris. It's probably the most sought after.
It's so good.
Restaurant.
The fact that we had 20 people in that room was insane.
It's so good. Everybody should go there when they go to Paris. But we did that. Then we went and watched the sunset under the Eiffel Tower with all of our friends. I tried to take photos in my mom's wedding dress. That was like a big lofty goal of mine. You can't have everything.
Well, I think that was lesson number 1 on the trip, where it's like
things aren't going to go my way.
You have to be, I think the most important thing, especially like for you, because you put so much into it, like everything.
Yeah.
It was a good way early on to get that out of the way, being like, okay, not everything goes according to plan. You're like, you're in your mom's dress and you're under the Eiffel Tower, yet there are 5,000 people around us.
It is 100 degrees. My mom's dress is polyester.
So you changed into that in front of, like in the middle of a sea of people, which was crazy. I remember watching that. And just
this is it's like my secret talent. I can change in public no matter what.
It was, into like a tight wedding dress.
I know.
That was crazy.
Yeah. So I tried to take photos. I actually still haven't looked at all the photos, but it seemed like it was a fail just because I was so hot and uncomfortable and then like embarrassed. But I really wanted to make it a moment. But like, can't have everything.
I'm sure we have a good photo in there. We just haven't had the time to look yet.
Yeah. But it was cute. But so we did that, and then we got to just like drink champagne and be under the Eiffel Tower. We saw it like sparkle for the first time. I've never actually been there for that. We got to kiss underneath it. It was very cute, and we got like romantic like moments out of it.
It was awesome. And, and it was like, so like for me, it was crazy to have my parents over there.
Yeah.
Because they don't leave the country
Okay,
ever.
yeah. This is like a huge feat. Your parents made it out of the country. They traveled alone.
They made it. My dad, he can't get around quite as well as he used to, but he had his cane and he made it all the way under the Eiffel Tower with us, and they got some great photos in front. It was a nice moment to be like, because one of my biggest stressors was like my family being there and making sure that they could get to where they were going, because international is a whole thing if you've never done it. But they were fine, and it was awesome. And, we did the touristy Eiffel Tower thing, and And I think it was a good way to be like, okay, we're done in Paris now. You
Yeah.
know? Like that was kind of one of the last things that we did before we went down to the chateau.
So when we were in Paris, also my other biggest stressor, I just want to be honest with the things that were stressing me out. My other biggest stressor was about the weather. Now, I'm sure every bride can relate to me if you're having an outdoor wedding is like, we're all stressed as hell about it raining. And the weather for our wedding, it was rain. Pretty much the 3 days that we were there, and then sunshine the other days. So every day, probably 10 times a day, I was checking the weather, seeing if it changed, and having 2 breakdowns a day about it.
At least. At least. And you started, this is the worst part, is you started 2 weeks out.
Yeah.
So
it's like an obsession. I couldn't help looking at the weather.
Well, I get it, though. It's like you plan. What's tough is you have 60 people coming to France.
Yeah.
Not only flying in, but having to make their way 3 hours outside of Paris to the chateau, which is a whole thing. So on top of that, the wedding's outside.
Well, my thing is, it's like we are having this special wedding at a chateau, and they have a backup plan. It's in their orangery, which is basically just a big white box. And they're like, we can do this. It'll be pretty. I'm like, but that's not what, like, why are we at a chateau?
Well, it was either
we could have gotten married in like Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of defeats the whole purpose of having this beautiful chateau wedding. So that's what was really like breaking me down, because I'm like, I don't want to get married in a white box. And it seems like it's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, the other option, they had like a chapel.
The chapel is beautiful.
It's beautiful, but it's so churchy. And I feel like we weren't really going for that vibe. So
Really?
I mean, holy matrimony.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, and I kept trying to reassure you, like, first off, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah. And I'm wondering this about other brides as well. I think like having a wedding is a once in a lifetime usually thing for people, and a once in a lifetime like stress that I'm sure I'm not the only person that has kind of like felt that way leading up to their wedding, where it's just this overwhelming cloud.
Are you being serious?
What?
You are wondering if you're the only person who's ever gone through this.
Well, in the way where it's like you aren't really able to feel present for a lot of it.
Jacqueline, this is probably it's probably the norm.
I know, but like I have guilt about it because I wish that I could have been more present for a lot of the different aspects of stuff. But
I think, I mean, I know you pretty well at this point, and I feel like you were like enjoying yourself, but I could tell you had like partitioned your mind.
Yeah.
So like part of you was thinking about.
That's exactly what it was.
But that's how I was. To be fair, that's what I was doing too.
Yeah.
I was like nervous for I'm always I get so neurotic about like logistics and like getting us down there and like how's everyone going to show up? Is everyone going to make it? Like I was really stressed about the logistics of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which is so insane because it was all pretty much handled.
Yeah.
But you know, we've never done anything like this before, and so I think it's totally normal to be like, holy shit, this is overwhelming. And there's no way that you can't be like at least half immersed in that while trying to enjoy something else.
Well, and also, I mean, we had a wedding planner, but a lot of the decisions and responsibilities ended up weighing back on us. Like we didn't have somebody that was taking care of a lot of the logistics and a lot of the moving parts.
Yeah.
Like, so as we're trying to enjoy this whole like experience with our friends before, we're still like answering a million emails, answering text messages about where people are, getting people to this place and that place, and like handling all these last minute things. So it was very stressful.
Yeah. But I mean, all of that is, and we've talked about this since, but all that stuff kind of like as time goes on, I feel like the more time passes after the event, that kind of stuff falls away.
Yeah.
And you just remember the really, really important detail. At least if you have a memory like mine, which is absolutely awful. But I think for me over time, it's the milestone moments within the thing that we did that I really latch onto and remember. So like all that shit, like, yeah, in the moment, it's like, oh, this is stressful or whatever. You can't be two places at once. I get it. But that stuff, with a little bit of time, just kind of fades. So,
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
The day that we got there was absolutely gorgeous.
It was amazing.
It was a little hot, but it was like sunny, beautiful. We dropped our stuff off, and then we went to this town called Beaune to try to we wanted for the gift bag, we wanted to get everybody like local bottles of wine and baguettes and mustard and all those like local things that you do when you're at like a destination wedding. And then we got to the town of Bona and everything was closed because, spoiler alert, whenever you're in Europe, a lot of places are closed on the weekends. Their whole entire town was closed.
The whole town was closed, but then and we were so hungry, and all the restaurants between 3 and 7 closed down completely. And we showed up at 3.
Yeah.
So we're like, oh my God, finally, look at all these amazing restaurants. Let's grab some food. And they're like, oh, we're only serving drinks for the next 4 hours.
Yeah.
So there was that.
Which I would have stayed and drank, but we had shit to do.
We had so much to do.
And
that's what that first day was us just like prepping, because the following day was when everybody was going to show up to the chateau.
Yeah. So when we got back to the chateau the first day, we started putting together all of the gift bags, which I was like, this will take an hour. It took all night long. And one thing that you said that I thought was really cute when I was just kind of stressing out about, certain things going wrong at the wedding, this and that, whatever, you were like, the way that you did the wedding was so you. And you're specifically talking about when we were packing the gift bags. Mm-hmm. You're like, this reminds me of when you were younger, like packing bracelets in your parents' living room.
Yeah.
Like it was very reminiscent of that. Like, like the community of family doing it all together and like kind of scrappy and just...
Your parents, my parents, were all sitting around this table just trying to like fold shirts and put stuff in a bag. Like it was very DIY.
But very me.
But very you. Like that's like, that's what I was commenting on, is I can imagine you being, in your early 20s, late teens.
Yeah.
Making these bracelets and like shipping them out with your parents. And that it felt like that. And I thought that was a cool thing to note, because I knew that you were pretty stressed, and it was like, ultimately we were going to get it done, but it was going to be like kind of burning the hours into the night. That's how it went.
Well, there's definitely like an Instagram versus reality kind of aspect to it, where, I mean, we paid for our wedding ourselves. We didn't have help from family or whatever. And there were a lot of things that we like took upon ourselves for responsibilities. Like, again, we had a wedding planner, but it's not like we had people making the bags. It's not like we had help putting them in the room. Like, that was just one thing that ended up being such a massive time suck that it would have been nice to relax the day before everybody got there.
Yeah, but
all I wanted to do was have like a relaxing moment, but I was like, no, we were like burning, what's this saying? Burning the candle at both ends?
Burning the candle at, multiple ends.
Both ends.
I felt like there were 5 ends.
And there was like a point where I'm like, I have to go to sleep so I'm not exhausted tomorrow.
Yeah. That's kind of how we do stuff, though.
It is.
Like I know for you especially,
we're not bougie.
One of your what I call this, a quality, something that you do.
You didn't say good or bad. You just said a quality.
It's just a thing that you do.
Okay.
You aim very high.
Yes.
You aim like unrealistically high, and then you normally get pretty damn close. But it's rare that you're gonna hit, like. Expectation versus reality, is a thing, but when you aim that high and then you have all of that stuff, like there's no way you're going to be able to get rest before everybody shows up. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
And it's all good. And I think that deep down you knew that, it wasn't like something.
I mean, ideally I would have liked
I know, but realistically,
I envisioned this nice, like a scrub before bed and like laying around, maybe chatting a little bit. Like Jared and I had zero like quality time together the entire trip, really.
Yeah.
We didn't have a moment. But no, I mean, to your point, I mean, I've learned a lot about myself, I think, in the past couple weeks, especially going through the wedding, about, especially with expectations and the pressure that I put on myself to make things a certain way, and the perfectionist in me. And there's just a lot of things that I am just so hard on myself. I'm my biggest critique. And I'm literally like really mean to myself.
That's like, it's going to take long-term like reflection and understanding to kind of like wrestle with something like that.
Yeah.
That's just how you are. And it's not a bad thing. And I think what you could look at it as like a strength is like, that's what makes everything so rad that we did.
Because I care so much.
You care so much. You wanted everybody to have a great time. I mean, so did I. And I think by doing what we did and going so far over the top like that, it's like, I said this before, but even if they don't all land, you've done so much that what does land is going to be important to people, and they're going to take that away from you.
I know, but like if only all of the things landed. There was a lot of things that didn't land. There was a lot of things that got forgotten about. And there's a lot of things that didn't get documented that I put a lot of time into, like a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of love into. And I have had multiple breakdowns about it. But I think the reason why is just because I cared so much.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of felt like it was forgotten. A lot of things were forgotten or not even acknowledged, and not by the guests, but just like in life, like being put up or whatever. So, and I know this happens to a lot of brides. I've seen many TikToks about it where it's like all the things that went wrong at my wedding, and it's like certain things, something's always going to fall by the wayside. But there were many things that did in our wedding. But I know grand scheme, again, like the Instagram versus reality of it all, like it was so beautiful that those little minute things like didn't really matter in the grand scheme to anybody but me.
Yes. Correct.
That's what I'm trying to tell
I know,
myself.
but that's what I'm saying. It's like that you're going to have to sort that out long term.
Yeah.
I think you will, but I don't think anybody else would look at it like that.
Yeah.
Including me.
Okay, so when we come back, we're going to get into the wedding day. Well, we're going to get into the day before really quick before we jump into the actual wedding day. We had a welcome dinner on the first day that everybody came, and we wanted to have an emo-themed welcome dinner. It was an elder emo evening hosted by Jack and Jared. And it wasn't like super, super themed, but the dress code was everybody wears black, but Jared and I were wearing white. I thought it was really cute and a really cool contrast because the dress code for the wedding was bright colors.
Yeah.
So it was a really cool, stark difference between how everybody looked and just how the photos turned out and stuff like that. And then we had I had a bar sign for themed cocktails that didn't really make it anywhere, but I had them all like emo songed themed.
Do you remember the names of the drinks?
I woke up in a cab. It was a glass of Cabernet.
It's good.
What other ones were there?
Did you do the MyChem one?
Yeah.
What was that one? Lime not okay.
Lime not okay. Margarita.
It's a good one.
This ain't a veen. It's an arms race.
White
wine. Oh, what was there was one of your songs.
Oh,
Black Butterflies and Deja Brew beer.
Oh, yeah. It's good.
I could go on and on.
It's good. I'll take credit for the MyChem one though.
I know that was pretty good. Yeah, so we had emo themed cocktails. We played some emo songs, and then we had sunflowers are a really big important thing to both of us. And so for the wedding, we had like all these beautiful colored flowers, and the florals were amazing. But then the night before, we bought a bunch of sunflowers, and that was the way that we decorated everything. And I also had a little bouquet of sunflowers at our courthouse wedding. So that was a way to kind of like sprinkle those throughout.
Tie it all in.
We had black candles. It was cute. I mean, listen, there's only so much you can do on a small budget from across the world. And I think that we did pretty good.
I think it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was so cool. I think what I took in that first night, because, I think, and I don't know if this is this way for everybody, like on like the welcome dinner night or whatever it is, but I was so stressed that night.
Oh, we were both so stressed.
My emotions were so wound up, and I was so like, because like I said, once it gets rolling, there's no stopping it. And so I felt so stressed. And then after we kind of worked there, we had a couple moments where we're like, oh shit, like are we?
We had a little tiff.
Yeah, we were like circling the drain for a second.
But I think honestly, it made sense. Why we are both so wound up. We were both so stressed. Sure. There was also a lack of communication of when we should have been down there, and there was some things that got up that weren't relayed to us correctly.
We're trying to balance like photo time with like when is dinner actually starting, and it was a whole thing.
There's a lot of shit,
but my point is, after all that shit went down, and then we got to go sit at the table, and like I looked around, and everybody was there, and everybody looked awesome, and it was like that's what I had pictured in my mind when we first started talking about all of it. Yeah. So I felt like that eased my mind a little bit, just seeing everyone there and having a good time. And the food was good. I was stressed out the entire time, but that's fine. You just kept the stress going. Yeah. You're like, I'm not deviating. This is me now. It was just a lot. Like it really was just a culmination of everything that I had been feeling over the past couple of months. Right. And not feeling ready, feeling rushed. It was a big feeling of feeling rushed. And just, I couldn't like. I could feel that. I couldn't catch my breath, really. I was like trying to like converse with like friends and stuff, and I could tell you were stressed, and so I was trying to like, something where I keep like looking over. I'm like, you good? No. You know what? It's okay. That's one of the reasons why having that welcome dinner and having that like first night is so important, is because at least for you and I, it was a good chance to kind of like it's like a dry run almost. You're like trying to get the feel of what it's like to have everyone there and to be stressed and to like feel like you're responsible. And like there was all of those things that first night. And I think like, you know, it was a good outlet to kind of look at it and be like, okay, this is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, this is how it's going to go.
Well, and it was funny because we both went to bed. I mean, we didn't go to bed mad or anything, but we had our moment. And then it was just crazy the difference between like how stressed that I was that night and then the way that I woke up the next morning.
That was crazy.
We both woke up the morning of the wedding and like I felt incredible.
Yeah.
It was so bizarre. Yeah. Like I shouldn't have felt that good. I don't know what it was. I felt calm. I felt refreshed. I was a little bit hungover and I was a little bit shaky, but other than that, like we both woke up feeling amazing. So I think it was something that we just like had to get out of our systems.
Yeah.
And just this like built up, just like frenetic energy that it just had to escape somehow. So I was kind of glad that happened on that day instead of the wedding because I feel like I was pretty cool, calm, and collected the entire wedding day.
I was like, yeah, you flipped a switch like overnight and it calmed me down. You know, like I felt like, because when you wake up, it's like, you know, if you have like a big game or you have like maybe a concert or you got something like you got to do a speaking thing, whatever it is, like that sort of stress is what I felt when I woke up wedding day. And then I realized that you were good. And I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like, what am I freaking out about? Like, this is fine.
Yeah.
And then the day was amazing.
Yeah.
Like it was so awesome.
Yeah. I don't know. I think maybe because I felt prepared. Like I think I felt more prepared of what the wedding day was going to be. And that's why I think I woke up a little bit like calmer where the night before, like, again, there was a lot of miscommunication and I felt frantic and frazzled. Yeah. But yeah, it was great. We had the best photographer, videographer team, Joy Zamora and Lua Arjulo. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Sorry, Lua.
We love you both, though.
We've been tagging him all over Instagram, and they are incredible. Yeah. So they were there to document everything. It was really sweet. I mean, it was pretty typical of like getting ready for the wedding day. Like we both had our suites right next to each other. We had a really sweet moment where you like reached your hand over and I gotta like hold your hand. We gotta have like a little exchange.
I don't like the whole like you can't see the bride thing.
But like then it like you get the moment.
I know.
It wouldn't, and you know what? Like I wouldn't change anything for a lot of things with you, but my first look with my dad was probably the most emotional moment.
Yeah, the photos are so wild.
That I have ever had in my life.
Yeah.
Like as crazy and as crazy as the wedding was, for that moment alone, I would not change a thing because it was so emotional to look at my dad in his eyes at that moment. I will never forget that.
Oh, yeah.
It was the sweetest thing I've ever experienced. And it was, but that's why you do the first look. That's why you don't want him to look at you because you can actually have that moment that you've been like thinking about your entire life.
But my perspective was like, you know, we're pretty much just best friends.
I know.
I just wanted to hang out.
I want to like drink with you.
I was like, I have nerves. I wanted to see you, you know, but I guess that's kind of the point. But,
well, and we did our first look. I loved how we did our first look.
Yeah.
That's something I'm really, really proud of.
It was cool having the people like hang out of the windows.
I had this vision in my head about doing the first look, and the chateau is so beautiful. There's 3 floors and there's all these big, beautiful windows with the Provençal shutters. And I had this idea in my head where I'm like, we could do the first look and have all of our friends and family or whoever wants to like watch from afar. And I also wanted to do our first dance out there because I will not be dancing in front of anybody, but I want to have the first dance moment with you and then especially with my parents because again, that's such a special thing that I think is really awkward, but I think is an important moment in a wedding.
For sure. It's so nice to be able to have that as like a moment between us mostly and not, you know, first dance like everybody's watching. It's kind of, I don't know. I've always felt like that's the weirdest part of a wedding.
Especially when you do it at the reception. It's like nobody wants to stand around a circle and watch you dance.
I mean, yeah, it just depends on how you do it. If you're going to do some big choreographed thing and go viral on the internet, like more power to you, whatever. That's not us though. And I don't think that ever would have been us. And so I was like, this makes perfect sense. It's cute. There's a few people can watch us through the window and
I thought it was sweet.
It was awesome.
Do you want to talk about how clunky I was?
Oh my God. So you're talking about first look?
Yeah.
So they have me standing there and I'm facing away from where you're going to come from. And got my eyes closed. At this point I was like, it wasn't until like I closed my eyes I started to get like super emotional, which surprised me. Yeah. Because I didn't think that was going to happen to me. I thought I was going to be like Mr. Cool Guy and like keep it together. Yeah. And then I could hear Kelty circling and she's like trying to, we'll get to that in a minute, but I could hear like her kind of like calling for you and like figuring out where you were. And she was like totally like, again, we'll get to that in a minute, but she like handled it all.
Yes.
So I'm like, where is she? Where is she? She's like, she's coming. So I hear you coming around the corner and I hear your footsteps and you're moving quick.
We had it.
I didn't see it because I had my eyes closed. I'm facing the other way, but I could hear you coming up. I called you a T-Rex.
Dude.
You came stomping around that corner.
There's a video of this happening. Our friend Matt took a video of it. I need to give some advice for brides out there. Take your time. Take your time when you're walking. Yeah. I came clumping down there so fast. Oh, yeah. I did look like a T-Rex. Yeah. No grace. Like I'm like holding my dress and I'm just like do. And then when I finally go to like, I go and like kind of scratch your back for you to turn around. And then I just like stand there with my arms down, like smiling. And like so awkward.
I don't think it comes across like that. I think you're in your mind. You're really like overanalyzing it. I think what's funny is you were so in my mind. You're like, let's do this. That's how it felt to me. You're like, let's get it on.
I know. I guess I'm like, here I go. But like, I guess I wasn't thinking about how like maybe you should like slow down. And I probably was making the stupidest face. Like, I wasn't thinking about how it would look or come across or how it would be on video, which I guess is kind of cute and sweet. We've seen the
footage. You look great. Like it's not weird at all. That's what I'm saying. Like I think you're in your mind. You're like, I messed this up. I don't think that you did. I think it was great. It's a moment like that, and I think one of the best parts about all of it is it's not supposed to be a certain way.
Yeah,
it just kind of happens how it happens. Yeah, you know, and like. That's what I took away from that was like, this is so, I've never done anything like this. It's so strange. I haven't seen you in 4 hours and like, you know, and then I was just like blown away.
Yeah.
Like you looked so awesome.
Thank you.
Your dress was so cool.
You guessed it correctly.
I nailed it.
I'm actually so shocked.
Dude, I nailed it.
Down to like you guessed. So Jared guessed what my dress was on Instagram. If I'm sure people have seen it, but you said something about having vines on there. I forgot there was vines on my dress. When we were going through that, I was like, he got my dress totally wrong.
You said that to me after. You were like, I don't think you got any of that.
No. And then when I posted the first video of my dress, everybody was like, he nailed it.
Yeah, because I did.
I didn't even think about it because I wasn't thinking about the sleeves or anything, but
purely mostly coincidental. But it was just things that I was saying. I don't even know. I know nothing about wedding dresses.
Yeah.
You know, you tried on 200 of them. I tried on 2 tuxedos.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, this sounds like something. I don't know.
I mean, you know me so well. Okay. So, well, first of all, we need to give credit where credit is due. Miss Kelty Knight literally saved our wedding. I'm not kidding. That is not an understatement. Kelty Knight saved the day.
It's not an understatement. It was on. Okay. So we know Kelty so well, but seeing her activate and use her superpower for good in a moment like that for us was something I will never forget.
I was trying to describe it to people. I'm like, this is the way that Kelty loves me. Yeah. Like that is how she shows how much she cares about me, is because she saw me in a state of a bit of a panic.
Yeah.
And I needed help because I'm only one person and I can only handle so much. And there was a lot of holes to be filled, and Kelty stepped in and she literally became like my tour manager, my wedding planner, tour manager, assistant.
She was
extraordinaire for the entire day,
keeping everybody fed, keeping everybody hydrated, telling me the schedule, telling you the schedule, telling when your parents when to hop in the shower. Yeah. Like it was
fixing my dress, carrying things. Like she literally did everything. Like I will never be able to pay her back for what she did for us.
It was
on the wedding.
It was like watching somebody do something that they were like born to do.
Yeah.
She was so incredibly useful and like so like able to tie into like what the emotions were of what we were doing and like just be such an amazing friend to both of us.
Yeah.
In the most important time of the entire trip, I was blown away by like how much easier that made everything.
No,
it was crazy.
I truly don't know what I would have done without her. Like it's insane. But she ended up carrying my, like, her and Becca, because they did the Fireball Girls.
Yeah.
Well, so when we actually
shout out Becca too. That was so.
It was so good. And of course, I'm like, the only thing that's gone viral from the wedding is the Fireball Girls, but that's fine. I knew it would. But when we actually went down to the ceremony, it was me, you, my parents, your mom, and then Becca and Kelsey.
Yeah.
So they were carrying my dress with me. Like, we all didn't get in a car together, but we all like were there in the back. And then they walked down the aisle first, handed everybody Fireball shots. Like, this was a moment that I've been dreaming of for years. I was like, I knew I wanted to do that. And then it was time to start the ceremony. I think the funniest thing that happened walking in is the second I started walking down the aisle with my parents, my veil, it's like the biggest gust of wind that France has ever seen, came and like took my veil basically off. I had the clunkiest entrance. I'm like trying to like grab the veil. Anna comes out and is like fixing it. I'm like, I don't even know if there's even a snippet from that video that the videographer can use as like a romantic like moment.
Well, the best part is Bill cam.
He had a 360
cam.
So
Bill I told him before this trip, I was like, hey, Bill, I think something amazing for this would be get one of those 360 cameras.
Yeah.
And what's so cool about it is it can you just hold it and it captures everything. And you can like go in after. And anyways, he wore it around his neck for the ceremony.
It was so
as
Bill.
You guys are walking out, Bill's got this like, it looks like a big necktie or a necklace, and it's a camera. And we were watching it back the other day, and you have to put that video up because it's so funny. It's the walk from like the parking lot to the altar for you is one of the most chaotic things I've ever seen in my life.
It was so insane.
It's like everything was going wrong. It was so funny.
So I walked down the aisle to Punk Rock Princess by Something Corporate, and this amazing guy named Stevie Bierkens, I'm sure you've seen him on TikTok because he does like all of these emo songs for like in wedding music on the piano. He is actually incredible.
Yeah.
He created a version of Punk Rock Princess for me to walk down the aisle to, because my biggest dream was to have Andrew McMahon play at our wedding, but that was not financially possible. So this was the next best thing. But we had been listening to this version of the song, and it made us both cry every time we listened to it.
Yeah, it was pretty insane.
Because it was just so emotional, like thinking of like how beautiful the moment would be, and then actually being in the moment and having that be what it was such a disaster.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It was like so clunky. It was so messy, and like I didn't even hear the song, so like it wasn't emotional at all. I was just like trying to not have my veil fall off my head.
Yeah, we had Matt like running it back too. Matt was controlling the iPad, and he was like, I was like, Matt, run it back.
And the song ended before I even got to the aisle. So that was a bit of a disaster.
You can't, that's at that point when you're like already in motion, you can't control any of that shit.
That's something that I actually never stressed about. Cause I was like, that's also very, it was very me. My walk down the aisle was never going to be graceful.
No.
So it was a very me thing to happen.
Yeah.
And then honestly, props to Becca and Kelsey again for making us do our vows. I think our vows were the most special part of our wedding.
I agree.
Like,
I think like, it's something that I would have never done. I would never wanted to do that.
Well, and it's funny because out of all of the things that were stressing me out about the wedding, when it came down to the wedding day, I was actually after I wrote the vows, I was like, you know what? I'm excited to do this.
Right.
I think it was the daunting thing about trying to like write everything down and encapsulate all my feelings for you and be publicly vulnerable really freaked me out. But when it came down to the moment, I was super excited and not nervous at all.
And then you burped.
And then I belched.
You burped mid-vows.
I
right into the mic.
But, it was the Fireball.
Yeah.
We didn't have like a chaser or anything. I didn't even have a sip of water after the Fireball. It was kind of living in my throat for the next 20 minutes. And I had a little burp in the middle of our vows.
It's a good icebreaker. People loved it.
It was pretty good.
People loved the burp.
Also very me.
It was very you.
And you killed it on your vows.
I don't think people thought I was going to.
No,
I
didn't.
looked around when you finished yours, and it looked like people were like, there's no way he's going to be able to match that.
Yeah.
And I liked that because I was like, hold my beer.
Your vows were very, very sweet.
Thanks.
And I
yours.
I reread them the other day because we were doing something with the videographer, and I cried again.
Got her twice.
Got me twice.
Got her twice.
No, they were really sweet. And we both were like, you know what? If we're doing this, we're going to really do it.
That's all the ceremony was.
We're not doing short vows.
No. It was Fireball shots, and then it was Alexis like giving us the awesome intro that she did, and then it was our vows, and then that was it.
And then that was it.
It's like I really think that was the perfect length.
Yeah.
You know, there's people do ceremonies where they have other people do speech. Like this,
no.
No.
But that's what I was saying. I was like, we're going to go, I'm going to fully describe how I feel about Jared. I don't know how long it would end up being, but I just went into it. I think they both ended up being like 6 or 7 minutes long.
Yeah.
So they're a little bit long, but
so much fun.
I'm proud of them.
So much fun.
I'm really glad that we did them.
Man, imagine if every audience was like a wedding audience. It's like the warmest audience in the world.
I know.
It's so easy.
It is crazy.
It was so much fun.
So after the ceremony, we did cocktail hour, yada, yada, yada. And then one of my also biggest fears about the wedding was dinner getting moved inside, because I had this idea of how beautiful dinner would be outside of the chateau. We got these beautiful chandeliers that I spent a lot of money on, and we had all this beautiful place setting and tables that we had rented and all this kind of stuff. And there was a big storm moving into France.
Yeah, apparently the worst storm France has ever seen.
That's the quote.
So I was told.
Worst storm that France has ever seen. It ended up hitting halfway through dinner, but it was some rain.
It was some rain.
It was
a little bit of rain.
Medium rain.
But we had the parasols, so everybody had their like umbrellas up, and it was like, it's such a cool shot. We had like a really cool drone shot of it, and like, the vibe of it was actually, it ended up looking really cool.
It ended up being amazing. I mean, I would have obviously loved for it not to rain, but we got really lucky, and the rain didn't hit until later in the day. I thought everything would be inside.
I actually don't remember if I ate dinner.
I don't think I did.
I don't think, like, my brain was so like just fried.
Frazzled.
Yeah.
And then my dad,
Bill.
My mom told me that my dad was working on something. And when my dad is working, this is a lot of my reflection over the past couple of weeks is me realizing how much I'm like my dad. So when my dad is doing something, he's doing it. Like, you can't stop him. And that's where I'm realizing I'm like that too. I'm like, I'm going to do this thing. I can't not do it. So he put together this whole presentation that he did during dinner. And it was so long. They had to cut him short. And it was... But I
think he also married us again.
He remarried us.
Yeah.
He also did a magic trick, and then he made this entire book of the emo romance of Jack and Jared. It was basically that he read the entire thing.
It was basically like a fairy tale, fantasy sort of like book.
Yeah.
But using like, you know, it's
our
like
story.
Yeah, using like our story and like relevant like things that we've done in our lives. And
it was, but the thing is, I know, and this is funny because we were doing something for first degree about things that people hate, and they're like long speeches. His was so long, but he's just the sweetest, and it's like you can't not love him.
Bill went probably a good solid 30. I'd say 20. Bill went. And
then they cut him off.
They cut him off. Well, because the rain was coming.
And the rain was coming.
And that's what sucked is like when he was like getting ready to do it, like they were like, hey, I think it's going to rain. And he's like, yeah. But I got this thing.
Yeah.
And it was the most Bill thing ever.
Yeah.
And it was so sweet. And yeah, you're a lot like your dad.
Yeah.
It's funny. You
can't not do it.
No.
Like there's no not doing it.
No, but like I'm so glad that he did because
but like that's what makes him so sweet.
Yeah.
Like that's what makes him him. And that's also such a sweet memory that we're gonna like look back on.
Well, and I saved the playing cards that he used too.
Yeah, so for the magic
we'll
trick.
Do something cool.
Well, that was a tie-in. I've always loved magic, and I love magic because my dad learned how to do magic when I was a kid and would always do tricks for me. So it was a like really, really sweet full circle moment.
Yeah.
And then
karaoke.
And then to wrap it all up, we did karaoke. I was so excited.
Yeah.
It was the best. This was another thing that we had to do all on our own.
Well, you can hire like some like cheesy like DJ package, or you can just make everybody the star of the show.
Well, yeah, we had to buy all the equipment to do it and set it up ourselves. But that was the thing. We're buying 4 mics and we're having group sing-alongs for 3 hours.
And we did. And it was so funny because like only the strongest survived.
Well, our wedding was so small to begin with, and half of it was family. Yeah. So it's like, they're not going to do karaoke like our friends do.
Yeah.
So the group is small to start off with, and then like you saw people dwindling until it was like 5 of us. I think
like 7 remained. It
was
like it got down to like, once we got past like 1 a.m., it was like there's like 7 people and we're still just going hard. And then somebody told me that they heard from inside the chateau, they heard Closing Time by Semisonic.
Yeah.
Which is the last song I do if I'm doing like hosting a karaoke, I'll always play that one last. And I was like, you heard the end of the night.
Yeah.
That was the end of the night.
And it was funny because like being in it, you feel like there's like 50 people.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, looking at videos, we're like, this is kind of sad.
No.
It wasn't sad, but it was like, I'm like, oh, there's 5 of us.
Well, you're watching. It's a funny thing. Like, it's so different than like, because we did the dance party for a little bit and then it turned into karaoke.
Yeah. Dance party.
Whatever. Who cares? But what's funny about karaoke is like you forget that it's sort of a spectator sport.
Yeah.
So like when you're watching the video back, in my mind, when I'm up there doing it, I think that there's 50 people behind me going
singing along with you.
Yeah. And watching it back, it's literally me drunk, singing off key, a couple buddies like with mics as well, and then behind us is just people like kind of watching and like
our family being like, what is happening? Oh my God, it was amazing.
It was so fun.
I'm so glad we did that.
Yeah.
Like it was. That was like the perfect way to wrap up the night. And I have to say, like the entire wedding day, I was very present and I really, really enjoyed myself.
I did too.
Like it was amazing.
The best day of my life.
Aww.
Very fun.
It was so sweet.
It was so fun.
And then after that, we did a lot of shit, but we have run so late.
Yeah. We went to Nice, the end.
We did a buddy moon with all of our best friends.
Yeah.
It was actually incredible.
Yeah.
We had the best time ever. But that's a story for another time.
It is.
Do you have any last thoughts about being married to me?
Any last thoughts? Any last words?
Any last words?
No, I just think it's so nice to be at a place now where like we can start building whatever the next chapter is, you know? Because this was, I think for both of us, a long time coming.
Yeah.
You know? Engaged for 2 years, which I think is the perfect amount of time.
Yeah.
I thought that was really nice. I had fun being engaged. And now it's time to figure out what we do next.
Oh.
It's that same question on the couch.
I know.
What do we do now?
What now?
Yeah.
Oh, well, this is so sweet. I hope to listen to this 50 years from now.
50, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
With our kids.
I'll save it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we weren't here for a long time. We were here for a long time.
We were here for a long time, but also
a married time.
A married time.